Imagine this. You're watching Netflix, not in standard HD, not even in 4K, but in 8K. Every strand of hair, every texture of fabric, every single raindrop in a dark, moody scene looks so real. It's like you've been teleported inside the movie. Netflix in 8K changes everything. And in 2025, Sony's Bravia XR lineup is promising exactly that, with a brand new 8K mini LED TV that costs $1,499. Yes, you heard that right. An 8K Sony TV for under $1,500. And it might just be the best TV Sony has ever made. Why this TV is trending. So let's start with why this TV is blowing up in tech circles. Sony officially unveiled the Bravia XR 2025 series at CES 2025 in Las Vegas, and it immediately made headlines across what Hi-Fi, TechRadar, and The Verge. Now here's the kicker. While companies like Samsung and LG showcased flashy OLEDs and futuristic transparent panels, Sony went straight for mainstream impact, an 8K mini LED TV at a price that undercuts expectations. And this is important. In the past, Sony's 8K TVs cost $3,000, $5,000 minimum. In 2025, Sony is saying you can get 8K for the same price as a MacBook Pro. That shift alone has people asking, is this finally the year 8K goes mainstream? Add to that the search data. Sony Bravia 2025 has been spiking since CES. Yet here's the opportunity. No one has done deep YouTube reviews for these specific models yet, which means people are searching but not finding answers. And if you know YouTube, that's the recipe for a viral breakout. Why the hook works. Now let's be real. Why did we open this video with Netflix? Because that's the dream. For years, people had asked, do we really need 8K? Where's the content? Is it just marketing hype? But with streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney Plus, and Prime Video already testing 8K rated masters for certain productions, the jump isn't about if, it's about when. And Sony, with its history of working directly with Hollywood studios, is positioning itself as the bridge. So when you hear Netflix in 8K changes everything, it's not just a catchy line. It's a real possibility, especially with Sony leading the charge. What makes this TV different? Let's break down what the Sony Bravia XR 2025 actually is. First, the basics. Resolution, 8K, meaning 7680 x 4320 pixels, 4 times more than 4K, 16 times more than Full HD. Panel type, mini LED with Sony's XR backlight master drive. Price, $1,499 for the 65-inch model, with larger sizes scaling up. Now here's why mini LED is such a big deal. Mini LED explains simply. Most TVs today are either OLED or LED. OLED is amazing for infinite blacks, but it's expensive. LED is cheaper, but struggles with brightness and contrast. Mini LED is the middle ground. Instead of using a few hundred LEDs behind the screen, Mini LED uses thousands of tiny LEDs. More LEDs equals more precise control over brightness, deeper blacks, and higher contrast. Think of it like this. Regular LED equals drawing with a thick marker. Mini LED equals drawing with a fine-tip pen. You get more accuracy, more detail, and fewer glowing halos around bright objects on dark backgrounds. Sony is branding their version as the XR Backlight Master Drive, which isn't just marketing fluff. It's paired with their cognitive processor X-Star, a chip that analyzes scenes the way the human brain does. So if you're watching a candlelit dinner, the processor focuses on the candle flame while preserving the details in the shadows, just like your eyes naturally would. AI upscaling, the secret sauce. But here's the problem with 8K, there isn't a ton of native 8K content. Sure, YouTube has 8K videos and some filmmakers are experimenting, but most of what you'll watch on Netflix is still 4K or even 1080p. That's where Sony's AI upscaling comes in. The Bravia XR 2025 uses a technique called XR 8K Upscaling Pro. Instead of just stretching pixels like old TVs did, it uses machine learning to add missing detail intelligently. Imagine watching Stranger Things in 4K. The AI analyzes textures, hair, clothing, bricks on a wall, and predicts how they should look in 8K. The result? A sharper, more detailed image that feels native, even though it isn't. This is the same kind of tech Google uses with AI photo enhancement or Nvidia uses with DLSS for gaming. And when you see it in action, it's shocking how close it feels to true 8K. Why Netflix in 8K matters. Now you might be thinking, okay, cool tech, but does Netflix even stream in 8K? Officially, Netflix hasn't rolled out 8K streams for the public yet. But here's the inside scoop. Netflix has been mastering shows in 8K for years. Big budget productions like The Witcher and Our Planet were shot and finished in 8K, even if they're delivered in 4K. Why? Because 8K masters future-proof content. So when Sony markets Netflix in 8K, they're not lying. The content is already being produced in 8K. Once the pipeline catches up, higher bandwidth, better codecs like AV1, and faster internet speeds, TVs like the Bravia XR 2025 will be ready to show it. In other words, Sony isn't just selling you a TV for today. They're selling you a TV for the next 5 years of streaming. The price shock. And let's not skip over the price again, because this is what really makes people stop scrolling. $1,499. That's less than half of Sony's previous 8K models. For comparison, Sony's Z9K 8K TV in 2022 cost $3,500. Samsung's QN900C in 2024 started at $3,300. LG's 8K OLEDs try $5,000 and up. So for Sony to drop an 8K mini LED at $1,499 is borderline aggressive. It's like when Tesla announced the $35,000 Model 3. Suddenly, what seemed out of reach felt accessible. And remember, in consumer electronics, price perception is everything. People might not even need 8K, but at $1,499, they're tempted. Now let's get into the real test that everyone's been waiting for. Netflix in 8K on the Sony Bravia XR 2025. Because here's the thing, it doesn't matter how many fancy acronyms and specs a TV adds. If it can't make Netflix look jaw-droppingly good, then what's the point? Netflix in 8K. Why it changes everything. When we fired up Netflix on the Bravia XR, the first thing that hits you is the AI upscaling magic. Sony's Cognitive XR processor takes standard 4K streams and breathes life into them at 8K. We're not talking about artificial sharpness or fake detail that looks distracting. No, this feels natural, almost as if the content was meant to be filmed in 8K. Imagine watching Stranger Things. The neon lights of Hawkins, the dark shadowy corners of the Upside Down, and even the smallest textures, like dust particles floating in the air, suddenly pop. Colors look cinematic and depth feels almost three-dimensional. It's like Netflix has been upgraded into a private IMAX theater in your living room. And here's where the $1,499 price tag comes into play. Until now, this level of clarity was reserved for TVs costing upwards of $3,000. Sony has basically dropped the barrier of entry to next-gen cinematic streaming. To give you a sense of scale, on most mid-range 4K TVs, Netflix looks good. On Sony's Bravia XR 2025, Netflix looks unreal. There's a huge difference between passively watching content and feeling like you're standing inside the scene, and this TV delivers the latter. Gaming performance, does it hold up? Okay, Netflix is one thing, but what about gaming? Because let's be real. People buying an 8K TV in 2025 aren't just movie lovers. They're gamers who want every pixel working overtime. The Bravia XR 2025 supports HDMI 2.1 VR, variable refresh rate, and 120 Hz native refresh. Translation: you can hook up a PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, or even a high-end gaming PC, and this display will keep up without breaking a sweat. We tested Cyberpunk 2077. Phantom Liberty on a rig that could push 8K, and the results were insane. Reflections on car windows, neon lights bouncing off puddles, and character detail, it all looks surreal. Add to that Sony's incredibly low input lag mode, and the Bravia XR becomes not just a streaming beast, but a legit competitive gaming display. Even older games benefit. The Last of Us Part I remastered in 8K has jaw-dropping textures, while Fortnite feels smoother and brighter than ever. That's the beauty of AI upscaling. It makes even non-8K titles look like they belong in the future. Now, LG's OLED still holds the crown for pure black levels, but Sony fights back with higher peak brightness thanks to mini LED. That means in HDR games like Horizon Forbidden West or Forza Horizon 5, sunlight, explosions, and night cityscapes feel more dazzling. If OLED is like watching art in a gallery, Sony's mini LED is like being dropped into the middle of a blockbuster action movie. Mini LED versus OLED, the battle of the titans. Let's address the elephant in the room. How does the Bravia XR 8K mini LED stack up against LG's OLED lineup? OLED, as we all know, delivers perfect blacks. Pixels literally turn off when displaying black. But OLEDs can struggle with brightness in well-lit rooms. That's where Sony's mini LED tech absolutely shines. The Bravia XR delivers higher peak brightness and more consistent HDR punch, making it perfect for living rooms with natural sunlight or bright overhead lighting. Plus, Mini LED is less prone to burn-in, a concern for heavy gamers or people who watch a lot of static content like sports scores, YouTube overlays, or news tickers. Imagine watching ESPN for hours every day. OLED might eventually show faint ghosting. Sony's Mini LED. You're safe. So while OLED is still the king of contrast, Sony's Bravia XR 2025 makes a serious case for being the better all-rounder, especially if you're into both Netflix and gaming. It's the one TV fits all solution. The price factor, $1,499 for 8K. Let's pause for a second and really think about this. Just a couple of years ago, an 8K TV from Sony or Samsung would easily cost you between $3,000 and $5,000. Now Sony is putting a flagship 8K Mini LED TV on the market for $1,499. This isn't just about one product. This is a signal that 8K is moving from luxury to mainstream. Think about it. Streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney Plus, and even YouTube are already preparing more 8K-ready content. Gamers are demanding higher resolutions, and consumers, people like you and me, want future-proof tech without selling a kidney. Sony knows this, and that's why the Bravia XR 2025 is so important. It's not just another TV, it's a bridge into the future of home entertainment. And here's the wild part, Sony could have priced this higher. They could have launched at $1,999 or $2,199 and still looked competitive. But $1,499 feels almost disruptive. It's like Sony saying we're done waiting for 8K adoption. Let's make it happen now. Now that we've put the Sony Bravia XR 2025 through the ringer with Netflix, gaming, sports, and day-to-day usage, let's step back and ask the $1 million, or rather the $1,499 question. Is this the best TV you can buy right now, or is it just another CDS buzz product riding the 8K hype? Sony versus LG versus Samsung, the real battle. Whenever Sony drops a flagship Bravia, the two names that always enter the chat are LG OLED and Samsung Mio QLED. These are the heavyweights that dominate TV conversations year after year. So how does the Sony Bravia XR 2025 stack up against LG OLED G4 2025 edition? OLED still rules when it comes to perfect blacks. If you're a cinema purist who watches movies in a dark room, LG OLED will still feel more natural in ultra-dark scenes. But here's the kicker. Sony's new Mini LED with XR contrast booster closes the gap more than ever. Unless you pause a movie and pixel peep, you're unlikely to notice. The trade-off? OLED still risks burn-in, Mini LED doesn't. For gamers who leave HUDs on, Sony wins. Against Samsung Mio QLED 8K 2025 edition, Samsung has leaned heavily into brightness and color punch, and honestly, their sets look phenomenal in big box showrooms. But in real-world Netflix sessions, Sony's XR cognitive processor delivers better skin tones and more natural color mapping. Samsung sometimes overjuices the color palette. Sony looks cinematic. Samsung looks Instagram filtered. Pick your vibe. Sony's unique advantage? The Netflix adaptive calibrated mode. LG and Samsung simply don't have this. It's literally Netflix and Sony working together to say, this is how our shows are meant to look. That call-up is unmatched. The gaming crown, can it dethrone the LG C-Series? Let's talk about the other elephant in the room. Gamers love LG C-Series OLEDs. Always have. Always will. But does Sony have a shot this year? On paper. Both Sony and LG support 4K 120Hz, VRR, and ALM. Both have super low input lag, ~810 milliseconds. Both have HDMI 2.1 ports ready for £5 and Xbox Series X. But Sony pulls a sneaky ACE card. Auto ADR tone mapping the PlayStation 5. Plug in your £5 and the TV literally auto-calibrates HDR settings for you. No fiddling in menus, no crushed blacks or blown highlights. It's just set, optimize, and game on. That's a massive win for casual players who don't want to deep dive into picture settings every time they switch titles. Add to that XR motion clarity and suddenly fast-paced shooters, sports titles, and high-octane racing games look buttery smooth with zero judder. OLED may still have the edge in raw pixel response time, but Sony's AI-driven motion processing gives movement a cinematic yet razor-sharp flow that's hard to beat. For hardcore PC gamers, LG OLED still takes the crown thanks to broader G-Sync and FreeSync support. But for console gamers, especially PlayStation loyalists, the Sony Bravia XR 2025 isn't just competitive, it's arguably the more natural and optimized choice. Sony knows its ecosystem, and this year it feels like the Bravia was built to be a 5 pounds perfect partner. The price question: is $1,499 really worth it? Here's the thing: $1,499 for a cutting-edge 8K mini LED with Sony processing is shockingly reasonable. To put it into perspective, just 2 to 3 years ago, Sony's 8K TVs started at $4,999 plus. LG's flagship OLEDs are still selling at $2,500, $3,000. Samsung's 8K QLED lineup, $2,000, $3,500 easily. So Sony pricing this at $1,499 almost feels aggressive. Like they're planting a flag saying, 8K is here, and it's not just for billionaires anymore. The cash? That's the starting price for the 65-inch. Go bigger, say 75-inch or 85-inch, and you'll cross the $3,000 line. Still, for what you're getting, Sony has absolutely redefined value in the premium TV market. Future of 8K, is it really ready? Let's be brutally honest, 8K content is still rare. Netflix hasn't fully embraced it. YouTube has some 8K demo clips, and gaming in native 8K is still science fiction for most GPUs. So does that make this TV pointless? Not at all. Here's why. Upscaling is the killer feature. Sony's XR processor takes your everyday 4K Netflix streams and genuinely makes them look closer to 8K. It's not just marketing fluff, it works. Even sports broadcasts, Blu-rays, and even some older HD shows get that polish that makes them look like they belong in 2025. Future-proofing. Buying an 8K TV in 2025 isn't about what you're watching today. It's about being ready for the next 5 to 7 years of content. Streaming platforms evolve fast, and studios are already experimenting with higher resolution workflows. When Netflix flips the 8K switch, you won't need to upgrade again. Think of it as buying into tomorrow's entertainment ecosystem, not just today's. Gaming and sports. Even if the source isn't native 8K, the AI-enhanced sharpness means you're seeing details that a standard 4K panel simply can't reproduce. Grass on a football field, distant textures in open-world games, or even facial expressions during a live concert all feel more lifelike than ever. So no, 8K isn't mainstream ready, but Sony makes it feel like it is. The verdict: should you buy it? If you're a Netflix addict who binges shows and movies daily, this is the best streaming TV you can buy, period. A PlayStation 5 gamer, Sony's Bravia XR 2025 is basically made for you. A tech enthusiast who wants the most future-proof display under $2,000, this is the obvious pick. If you're a hardcore cinephile who only watches movies in pitch-black rooms, LG OLED still edges it out. A casual buyer who doesn't care about 8K or HDR, save money. A mid-range 4K will be fine. But for the sweet spot everyday Netflix lovers, gamers, and tech-forward buyers, the Bravia XR 2025 is the TV that actually delivers on the 8K promise without bankrupting you. The big question for viewers. So here's where I hand it off to you. Would you spend $1,499 on the Sony Bravia XR 2025, knowing 8K content is still limited, just to have the sharpest, most Netflix-ready TV on the block? Or would you stick with a tried-and-true OLED and wait for 8K to go mainstream? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this debate is going to explode as more people get their hands on these sets. And if you found this deep dive helpful, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe for more real-world tech reviews, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next test. Because trust me, you're going to want to see how this stacks up against the LG OLED G4 in a side-by-side showdown. Until then, enjoy your binge watching, because with the Sony Bravia XR 2025, Netflix really does look unreal.